Across every continent, among every ancient civilization, nestled within every cultural tapestry, there exists a hauntingly similar story, one of water, wrath, and ruin. From the fertile crescent of Mesopotamia to the high peaks of the Andes, from the isolated islands of the Pacific to the deserts of Africa, humanity has carried with it a tale of a great flood. This narrative, passed from one generation to the next, etched into stone tablets, sung in oral traditions, and painted in sacred texts, echoes with the voice of a shared catastrophe. What is most striking about these stories is not just their ubiquity, but their uncanny similarity. In nearly all of them, the flood comes suddenly and violently. It engulfs cities, consumes forests, topples mountains, and swallows entire peoples. It is not a gentle rising of seas over centuries. It is an apocalyptic deluge that changes the world in days or even hours. Survivors, if any, are few, chosen by fate, divine intervention, or sheer chance. They are often warned, they build arks, they seek refuge atop sacred mountains or remote islands, and they emerge into a new, cleansed world. Could this shared myth point to a shared memory? A global event so traumatic, so unfathomable, that it seared itself into the collective consciousness of humankind. Archaeological and geological evidence increasingly suggests that such a flood may not merely be a metaphor, but a memory, one grounded in a real catastrophe that struck the Earth around 10,000 years ago. The end of the last ice age was a period of immense transformation. Glaciers that had held their grip on the northern hemisphere for millennia began to retreat. As they melted, vast quantities of water were unleashed into the oceans. Sea levels rose by hundreds of feet, coastlines were redrawn, and vast areas of land disappeared beneath the waves. But even these gradual processes fail to explain the violence described in ancient flood myths. These stories do not tell of slow inundations. They speak of cataclysm, of sudden fury. So what could have triggered such an event? It could not have been a mere shift in climate. Climate change, while significant, unfolds over generations, not days. The flood stories speak of a trigger, an incident that transformed the Earth in a matter of moments. One possible theory is the sudden release of glacial lakes. As ice dams weakened, massive reservoirs of meltwater may have burst forth with the force of countless rivers combined, unleashing torrents that swept away everything in their path. The collapse of the Laurentide ice sheet in North America, for example, could have released such a flood, dramatically altering ocean currents, climates, and coastlines in its wake. Another compelling hypothesis involves celestial impacts. Some scientists propose that a comet or asteroid strike could have triggered the Younger Dryas, a sudden return to glacial conditions approximately 12,800 years ago. Such an impact could have vaporized ice sheets, caused global wildfires, and unleashed megatsunamis. The debris thrown into the atmosphere would have plunged the planet into darkness, triggering a cascade of environmental catastrophes. For the humans who lived through it, it would have felt like the end of the world. Regardless of the cause, the psychological impact on the survivors must have been profound. Imagine watching the ocean devour the land, your home, your family, your entire culture. Imagine the sky darkened by ash, the earth trembling beneath your feet, the screams of the dying carried away by howling winds and raging waters. Such an experience would not only shatter lives, it would shatter worldviews. It would demand explanation, understanding, and ultimately, remembrance. Thus, the myth was born, not merely as a warning, but as a lament, a record, a way to make sense of the senseless. In time, the story took on spiritual meaning. The flood became divine judgment, a cleansing of sin, a rebirth. Yet beneath the layers of symbolism, the raw truth remains. Something happened. Something massive. Something terrifying. Something that changed everything. Gilgamesh and Noah, the Aboriginal Dreamtime floods, the submerged temples of Dwarka, and the sunken ruins off the coast of Japan. They are all witnesses of this event. Was it perhaps an unspeakable event? Was it an event that people tried to forget, and that was never allowed to happen again? We have gone beyond religious restrictions and put forward a hypothesis that we would like to offer for discussion.
Long before recorded history, in a time veiled by myth and obscured by geological upheaval, Earth was home to civilizations not entirely human. Ancient legends from every corner of the world whisper of gods, sky beings, and watchers from the stars. Some called them the Anunnaki, others the Shining Ones, but in our modern lens, these beings may best be described as non-human intelligences. One such group being the enigmatic Great White Aliens. According to ancient lore and esoteric traditions, these Great Whites coexisted with early humanity not as overlords, but as silent observers, scientists, philosophers, and technologists whose presence was hidden from the primitive tribes scattered across the globe. They established gleaming cities in places that today lie beneath ocean waters or are buried beneath millennia of sediment and ice. Atlantis, as Plato described it, may have been one of their capitals, its memory enduring like a whisper on the waves of time. The Azores, a remote volcanic archipelago in the North Atlantic, were once part of a far greater landmass, now submerged. Geological anomalies and bathymetric maps hint at a much larger plateau that once broke the ocean's surface. Around 15,000 years ago, this land was lush, teeming with life, and dotted with structures whose geometry defied natural formation. Here, the Great Whites thrived, using the islands as observational outposts. Humanity was in its infancy, nomadic, earthbound, and unaware of the cosmic drama unfolding above. It is said that not all intelligences on Earth agreed on the stewardship of the planet. A rival group, unknown, shadowed in obscurity, arrived or awakened, leading to a silent war among the stars that eventually spilled onto Earth. The reasons remain lost, but the effects were devastating. This was not a war of missiles or swords. It was a war fought with exotic technologies far beyond modern comprehension. The battlegrounds were not just the skies, but the very crust of the planet. Directed energy weapons, possibly based on gravitational manipulation or plasma resonance, were unleashed upon the polar ice sheets and glacial highlands, triggering a cataclysm that reshaped the world. As these weapons struck, massive volumes of glacial ice vaporized or rapidly melted, raising sea levels by dozens of meters in a geological blink. Tidal waves surged across continents, drowning coastal civilizations, sinking entire islands, and erasing evidence of millennia of progress. The Earth groaned and shifted, its rotation subtly altered, and the atmosphere filled with ash and vapor, triggering climatic chaos. The Great Deluge, recorded in the myths of Sumer, India, Mesoamerica, and among the Aboriginal Australians, was not a moral judgment from the gods. It was collateral damage from a war between titans. And yet, something endured. On mountaintops and high plateaus, remnants of pre-flood knowledge were preserved. The survivors, both human and possibly non-human, began to rebuild. But this time, the knowledge was hidden, encoded in stone, and protected by mystery. Göbekli Tepe in present-day Turkey is one such enigma. Dated to nearly 12,000 years ago, it predates agriculture, cities, and writing. Yet it is constructed with astronomical precision and symbolic depth. Its sudden construction and even more mysterious burial suggest it was either a warning or a message meant to survive the next catastrophe. Thousands of miles away on the high ridges of the Andes, Machu Picchu defies conventional explanations. Its architectural techniques mirror those found in ancient Egypt, despite no known cultural exchange. Could both have been influenced by the same lost progenitor civilization? On the Giza Plateau, the Great Pyramid aligns perfectly with true north, and its proportions encode astronomical and geodetic constants. These were not primitive tombs, but repositories of information, memorials to a pre-flood age. And then there is Stonehenge, a celestial clock, a seasonal calendar, and perhaps even a portal of remembrance for those who knew the world before the waters rose. Beyond the monuments, the very earth bears scars of the Great Flood. Massive erratics carried hundreds of miles from their origin. deep oceanic trenches filled with freshwater flora, ancient shorelines far inland, flash-frozen mammoths in Siberia, their bellies filled with temperate vegetation. All these are echoes of a cataclysm no mainstream timeline dares to accommodate. And yet, as our understanding of planetary science, ancient engineering, and comparative mythology deepens, a unified theory emerges, one that fuses physics with myth, geology with theology. Was it possible that what we call myths are distorted memories of real events, memories passed down through oral tradition, encoded in sacred texts, and etched into stone? The great white aliens, those enigmatic observers, may have withdrawn or perished in the war. But their influence endures, in language, in legend, and in the very geometry of sacred sites across the world. The flood was not merely a cleansing. It was a reset, a silencing, a veil drawn over a forgotten chapter of human history. And yet the question remains, why was the knowledge buried? Why were these sites aligned to stars and solstices? What is being hidden or awaited? We live in an age of rediscovery, where the floodwaters of ignorance are receding. As we awaken to the truth buried beneath our feet, we may yet rediscover who we really are and what we were meant to become. As the floodwaters receded and the remnants of a shattered world began to piece themselves back together, another mystery emerged, one not carved into stone or encoded in celestial alignments, but hidden deep within the living cells of humanity itself. For centuries, philosophers and theologians asked, what separates man from beast? What caused our rapid ascent from primitive hunter-gatherers to complex societies capable of music, language, mathematics, and contemplation of the cosmos? The answer may lie not in slow Darwinian evolution alone, but in intervention. Ancient texts across cultures hint at this possibility. In the Sumerian creation epics, the Anunnaki created mankind in their image to serve as laborers. In Genesis, the Nephilim, beings of heaven, mated with the daughters of men, producing a hybrid lineage. In Mesoamerican traditions, gods fashioned humans from corn, then wood, and finally from a divine essence. These aren't mere stories. They are fragmented memories of a deeper truth. The great white aliens, in their role as observers and caretakers, may not have been entirely passive. As they studied Earth's biosphere and its indigenous hominins, they likely saw promise, but also limitation. They may have taken Homo erectus or another early species, and through direct genetic manipulation, accelerated cognitive development, language acquisition, and neural complexity. Modern science has begun to echo these ancient whispers. In the mapping of the human genome, scientists have identified anomalies, genetic insertions that seem sudden, inexplicable by known evolutionary pressures. A key example is the FOXP2 gene, which regulates language and speech. In humans, it is significantly different from our primate relatives and appeared abruptly in evolutionary terms. Even more mysterious is chromosome 2. In humans, it appears to be the fusion of two ancestral ape chromosomes, an event that would require precise manipulation to preserve viability. The timing, roughly aligning with the dawn of symbolic behavior, art, and early culture. Could this fusion have been an engineered event? Furthermore, certain gene clusters seem to be deactivated or enhanced in ways that affect brain size, memory, and emotional capacity. It is not unreasonable, given the advanced bioengineering potential implied by a race capable of interstellar observation, that genetic modification was one of their core tools. From this genetic experimentation, multiple outcomes may have arisen. First, Homo sapiens, a new species, not evolved slowly but catalyzed suddenly. Second, the Nephilim and other hybrid lineages, individuals with enhanced physical or cognitive traits, perhaps unstable, which may have led to their eventual demise or exile. Oral traditions speak of giants, of long-lived kings, of beings who could command nature or wield energy through thought. Were these individuals remnants of the manipulated bloodlines? If so, what became of them? Some may have survived the cataclysm, retreating to mountain strongholds or underground enclaves. Others may have interbred with humanity, their bloodlines diluted but never extinguished. In rare instances, through accident or purpose, these genes may activate again, explaining the sudden emergence of prodigies, psychics, or individuals with anomalous abilities. There is also the possibility that some of these hybrid beings were preserved in stasis, waiting for conditions on Earth to stabilize. Myths of the sleepers, the shining ones, or the hidden kings could refer to just such beings, waiting to awaken in a time of need or reckoning. Why was this manipulation hidden? Why do nearly all religious texts warn against seeking divine knowledge or mating with celestial beings? Perhaps the war between the Great Whites and their unknown adversaries wasn't just over territory, but over principle. One faction may have believed in guiding life through direct intervention, while the other saw such manipulation as an abomination. The war, then, was not just technological, it was philosophical, a cosmic debate over the sanctity of free will and natural evolution. In the aftermath, the victors, perhaps the anti-interventionists, buried the knowledge. They erased traces of the hybrid programs and encoded the secrets of DNA manipulation into sacred architecture and language, protected by secrecy and ritual. And yet, fragments survived, in symbols, in dreams, in the unshakable human intuition that we are more than animals, that something greater sleeps within us. As we step into an era of CRISPR gene editing and synthetic biology, humanity is retracing the steps once taken by our ancient architects. We stand on the precipice of rewriting our own genome, resurrecting extinct species, and perhaps even creating new ones. What happens when modern science meets ancient legacy? Some say the Great Whites never truly left, that they await our ascension to the level where we can comprehend our origins. Others warn that our progress may reignite the ancient war, summoning forces that have remained dormant since the Great Flood. Either way, the time of ignorance is ending. The blueprint lies within us, and the stars, ever watchful, wait for us to remember.
The indicators are almost too clear to ignore. As if carved into the stone tapestry of time itself, a series of astonishing coincidences seem to point toward a pivotal epoch in human history, an epoch around 10,000 years ago, when the world as we knew it quietly and irreversibly transformed. In the cradle of civilization, the ancient lands we now refer to as the Middle East, a remarkable confluence of developments unfolded with eerie synchronicity. The first signs of domesticated livestock began to emerge. The cow, the goat, the sheep, and the chicken, 4 of the most significant animals in human history, were all domesticated within a narrow window of time, within the same general region. Scholars have traditionally explained this as a result of human ingenuity and trial and error agriculture. But what if there was more to the story? What if this sudden leap in domestication was not the product of chance, but of intervention? Around the same time, a genetic trait appeared among humans that had never existed before: blue eyes. This trait, limited to a small subset of the population, remains today one of the most striking and mysterious features in the human gene pool. Geneticists trace its origins to a single common ancestor living approximately 10,000 years ago, somewhere near the Black Sea. Why did this mutation occur? Was it natural evolution or something engineered? It is here that an ancient narrative begins to resurface. Whispers of beings called the Elohim, figures enshrined in religious and mythological texts, have long been interpreted by scholars as poetic metaphors for divine entities. But what if the Elohim were real? Not gods in the metaphysical sense, but advanced beings, great whites perhaps, as the ancients saw them, who descended upon the earth and mingled with its early inhabitants. Were these great whites a race of advanced humanoids, perhaps even extraterrestrial or extradimensional in origin, who intermingled with early humans, creating a hybrid race? And if so, were these hybrids, part human, part something else, what we came to know as the Elohim? In Mesopotamian and Sumerian myth, the gods walked among men. They ruled as kings. They brought laws, agriculture, metallurgy, writing, and even celestial knowledge. The book of Genesis refers to the Nephilim, the sons of God who came unto the daughters of men. Could this be an echo of the same event, interpreted through different cultural lenses? And then there are the enigmatic handbags carved in stone across multiple civilizations: Sumer, Egypt, Mesoamerica, even Göbekli Tepe. Always the same shape, always in the hands of figures portrayed as rulers, gods, or shamans. What were these objects? Containers of knowledge? Devices of power? Insignia of rule? Were they perhaps symbols of the Elohim's authority? Cosmic credentials worn by a race whose dominion spanned continents and cultures? Could it be that the early Hebrews, amid a world filled with many Elohim, chose to serve only one, thus giving rise to the monotheistic vision that would shape the Abrahamic religions? In their scriptures, the word Elohim is plural, yet their worship is singular. A deliberate choice, perhaps, in a world once ruled by multiple semi-divine overlords. All of this culminates around the year 1177 BCE, a pivotal moment when every major civilization in the eastern Mediterranean collapsed almost simultaneously. Mycenae, Ugarit, the Hittites, the great city-states of Canaan, all gone, almost overnight. Historians cite invasion, famine, internal strife, but perhaps the withdrawal of the Elohim, whether through death, retreat, or celestial recall, was the true catalyst. Did some flee into exile, scattering across the globe, sowing fragments of their legacy into every culture they touched? Is this why echoes of the same symbols, the same figures, and even the same technologies appear in ancient Mesoamerica, India, and the Pacific Islands? Are we seeing the trail of the scattered Elohim? Their exile, not their extinction? As we stand in the modern world, awash with technology, global networks, and renewed interest in our ancestral past, perhaps we are being called, once again, to remember, to look deeper into our myths, our genomes, our archaeology, and our ancient dreams. Perhaps the Elohim never left at all. They simply changed their names, and perhaps, just perhaps, they are waiting for us to rediscover who we really are. Thank you for watching our news. I'm Miva, a female cyborg, and I'll guide you through the unknown. If you'd like to support the work of the Ezekiel Project, subscribe to this channel and ring my bell so you never miss a video. On this channel, in addition to the news, we also feature reports on remote viewing and close encounter sessions conducted by the Ezekiel Project itself. If you'd like to discuss the topic, post your opinion in the comments. If you stay objective and contribute to the topic, we'll be happy to respond. We're searching for the truth, and I'd be delighted if you join us. See you then.